Viswanathan Anand is one of the greatest athletes that India's produced. He's one of the greatest chess grandmasters that the world has ever seen. Everyone knows he's one of the fastest chess players of all time, one of the most legendary chess players of all time. But what is inside that mind? How's he looking at life post chess? How did he train his mind in order to become one of the greatest of all time? All that and more on this episode of The Ranveer Show. I'll let you slip into it. But first, let me remind you that The Ranveer Show is now a Spotify exclusive podcast. That means all episodes will be available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available for the rest of the world. We have Viswanathan Anand on The Ranveer Show today. I'm going to let you enjoy the episode starting from now. Viswanathan Anand, sir, honor having you on the Ranveer Show.
Thank you, Ranveer. Pleasure to be on it.
How's your lockdown been? How's the last 2 years? I mean, 1.5 years actually. How's that been for you?
Initially, it was when it started, it was hard because I was stuck in Germany, and then all flights were cancelled for a bit more than 2 months. But very quickly, I realized that I was quite lucky in Germany. I was staying near a friend. I had access to everything, and they had not started locking down severely, so it was no problem at all. I considered myself quite fortunate. Then I got back, and for a while, I even enjoyed it. In the sense that you're at home and you have free time and thing. But I have to admit, the last 2 months have been close to hell, and you can see it almost mirrors what's happening in the country also. Last year, we thought we had dodged a bullet, but this year it's hit us full force. But anyway, the last 2 months have been very difficult for all sorts of reasons, and but we're healthy, and that's the main thing. So I don't want to make a big deal, but yes. Recently, it's also hard to get much work done and cope and everything, so you're struggling a bit harder.
When you say that, that scares me because, I'm assuming, and this is just an assumption, that your pattern recognition ability is like next level because of the years of chess that you've played and, the childhood kind of training you gave your own head. I remember reading about you in a children's kind of collection of storybooks, and there's a story about you from your childhood where I think your main kind of skill when it came to chess was your speed. Like you were just a really fast chess player. So I'd like to know what happens inside the brain of a really fast chess player. Like, how do you realize that you're fast when you're a kid?
I knew I was very fast because it's not even that I could explain why something was felt. It just felt like the right move. If you'd asked me to show all the variations, I might even have made mistakes, but my guess was very good. And I was also very impatient. I didn't want to sit and think anymore. I wanted to make the move. So that part is true. But I also practiced a lot. I would go to the club every Monday evening, Thursday evening, and the whole of Sunday, and just play chess the whole of Sunday, 5-minute games. Because contrary thing, we didn't have the patience, the concentration to play a long game. So we'd play 10-minute games. That is 5 for each person. And then the winner continues, the loser gets up and gets in the queue, this kind of stuff, just to liven things up.
I mean, everyone knows about what you've achieved. My question for you is a slightly alternative question, which is that how's your mental health throughout this process? Because, for you as an athlete, your brain was your main muscle. Mental health is also a part of that. So did you have any ups and downs through your career when it came to self-confidence, self-doubt, all these aspects of life?
All the time. It is a constant. And in fact, most chess games are not decided by good moves. They're decided by your state of mind. The good or bad moves follow that. So yes, I wouldn't call it... mental health is probably too strong a statement, but your mental state, your condition is very important, and your ability to find the state that suits you best and be able to bring it as often as you can, that makes the difference in the long run. But of course, I've suffered from every bit of self-doubt and emotional crisis that there is. It would be surprising if I didn't, because that is built into the competition. Not only can you get better, but you have an opponent who's very good and he's working full time to bring out your negative side. So that's also built into the game. But yes, I would say that I've faced. The only thing is, because I love the game and I like playing, maybe I didn't feel it so much as a sacrifice, what was necessary.
What's the best and worst aspect of the Grandmaster life?
I think that you get to travel a lot, and you have no boss. You can probably appreciate the feeling that when I was a chess player, when I finished my BCom and I decided, okay, I'm not going to study anymore, finish it with that, and then I became a full-time chess player. I depended only on the goodwill of organizers. If they invited me a tournament, I could go and play, and I knew what I was aiming for, which is the world title, and I would just do that. And in fact, I could live in my own world. The rest of the world, well, of course, you observe what's happening, but you don't really feel a part of it, because chess is the world you can escape into, and that's nice. The worst part is, I think, partly connected. You must make an effort to break out of the shell. If you don't do that, you pretty soon lose contact with other people. I think it's similar for most sports people, but it's something you have to keep an eye out for. And the other thing is, it's hard that everything depends on your mood, your sense of how life is going is all connected to the chessboard, and then you need to put some energy into breaking that, into finding other things that are equally important.
So when you say breaking out of the shell, so you mean like getting out of your comfort zone to add new skills or something? Like, I didn't exact.
That is one thing, of course, but that is almost a chess skill. You have to expand your horizon within chess. But I mean, also that you have to realize that there's a bigger world beyond chess, which happens around you. Otherwise, you just think, well, I'm going from this tournament to that tournament, and I'll meet this person and that person there. And the chess world is pretty self-contained. There are a few people in every country, and we can keep meeting each other. And it's easy to lose touch with the broader world. I think if you don't have a couple of good hobbies and you keep some close some close friends, and you're not close to your family members and so on, then it's much harder. But if you have all that, then of course they guide you, they keep you normal, and they also almost show you what else is happening in the world.
How do you look back at your life, sir? When you look back now, like at the whole Grandmaster title, then being a child prodigy, dedicating your life to a sport. How do you look back at all of it now?
I'm very happy. I feel it was a fairly charmed life. I got to do what I wanted to do, and I got to be good at it, which means that I didn't have to worry about my future and I felt that if I do well in chess, which I wanted to do anyway, then I'd probably be fairly comfortable. I would, and I got to travel to meet a lot of people, experience a lot of cultures, to feel really a global traveler and make friends. It's an unusual life because you don't have very close friends in your own city, because you're always, you come, by the time you become friends, you vanish again. But you have very close friends who are scattered all over the world. It's a feeling, of course, more and more people are able to relate to. But 30 years ago, there were not that many who could understand what I'm saying. Of course, now communications has changed everything. Everybody has friends all over the world, and it's maybe easier to understand. But you're a little bit of a stranger everywhere. I was a little bit of a stranger in every tournament, and then I'd come home to Chennai, and I was a little bit of a stranger here as well. Obviously I have my friends, I can go out with them, meet people, but you still don't experience one place as you would if you lived there full time.
So I once read this quote. It said that everybody looks at themselves in a slightly weird way. Like you look at yourself and say, man, you're one weird person. And it's always because of some weird action or some weird habit you have yourself, which you tie that to. For example, I strongly feel like I have two personalities inside me, which speak up. I have two different channels, and whenever I'm speaking a different language, like Hindi or English, the personality fully switches, and I'm very aware of this. So that's my crazy. I'd like to ask you, what's your crazy? Like, what's your weirdness?
I have my manias and obsessions. You know, the kind of weight you go to a tournament, the things you want before you travel, the things you plan, and so on. And over time, I've come to realize that a lot of people I consider normal, let's put it that way, do not have the same things. Especially, so there was a period when after I finished my teens, till I got married, where I was traveling alone, and then you're nobody's problem. And then I got married, and then my wife started traveling with me everywhere. And there is a bit of a culture shock. There are not many professions where you're traveling with your wife everywhere. And then you're forced to sort of confront each other all the time. And over time, I realized that there are many things that chess players do and behave that just don't seem normal to normal people.
Like what, sir?
In the middle of a conversation, suddenly our heads will just go like this, and we'll start thinking of some position. And they're shocked. Do you think, did I do something rude? What happened to this guy? Where did he go? Or something like that. The other thing is, I have succeeded quite well in hiding, because most people who talk to me from outside the world of chess, and even many within the world, say, you're so calm, you're so composed, you're so well behaved. How do you manage? And I tell them, if you believe that, that's very good, but it's not true. I mean, at home, when I lose a game, I have learned to just keep it inside till I can get to my room and then hit myself. But again, this is something you can call it an act, but you realize that publicly you can't show these things and you have to pretend, but it's just an act. And if you really have put a lot of intensity into your game that day, there's no way you can come off it and say, well, it's just a game or that kind of thing. It affects you too much. But at least I have not completely gone bonkers in public. So,
yeah, that whole concept about there's three versions of everyone, right? There's one in public, there's one with your loved ones, and there's one when you're completely alone. That's what they say.
That is a clever thing, actually, to say, because even what you are with your family and friends, there's an even more private life yourself, which you. That's an interesting thought. Yeah.
So how did your marriage help your sport and your career? Because I'm at that stage now. I'm going to turn 28 in like a week or so, a couple of weeks. And I'm just thinking a lot about marriage, and I'm thinking about, okay, what's it going to do for my mind and career? So from someone for whom their mind is their weapon in their career, I'd love to hear what it did to your mind, sir.
Well, like I said, for 4 or 5 years, I was basically with myself all the time, and marriage it has its pleasant moments, of course, but it's also a lot of struggle, because you're with someone all the time, and it's one thing to be nice to someone for some time. It's another thing to have to coexist with them all the time. And we were traveling together, and within a year of our marriage, she said, look, I'm coming with you everywhere. I can do a lot of things better than you. Let me just start managing your things and so on. And we got into that kind of relationship. And then it's intense. You're together everywhere, which means that eventually you can't hide you can't hide who you are anymore. I think this happens anyway, but for us, it happened faster. But the other thing is, it's quite annoying to be contradicted by someone. If you're used to being by yourself, then it's very hard to get used to being contradicted by someone much too often.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. In marriage, you will disagree on almost everything. So Right at the very beginning, we would disagree on which part of the toothpaste to squeeze, and from that to. And I remember once she put something in the safe, and she told me, um, the safe code is very easy for you to remember. It's 2706. And I immediately thought she's talking of chess ratings. And I said, well, it can't be 2706 because they're always rounded off to 5 and 10. And she looked at me really shocked and she said, it's our anniversary. And you realize that, again, what came to my mind first. But she was very, very adjusting. Many years later, she would tell me all the things that she wanted to tell me, but did not, because she understood that the most important thing was that I could still play a decent game of chess, and how sensitive I am with my mood, and we can't have a fight before a game and that kind of thing. So in that sense, she's been very supportive. And the other thing is, there's a reason why we all get married, because being forced to coexist with another person increases your tolerance. When you can't win every argument, you with yourself, you win every argument. But when you with someone else, you can't win every argument. It forces you to change, and that's healthy also. And it benefited my chess as well, because there were many clear psychological problems and mood swings and things like that I was prone to, that was affecting me. When someone constantly tells you don't do this, over some years I managed to stabilize, and that helped my. So about 5 years after we got married, I won my world title, so that kind of thing.
Wow. You know that the next obvious question is going to be if you let your wife win at a chess match against you.
Yes, we didn't get that far because it would look fake. But she once offered me a draw after making quite a lot of good moves. She made about 14 good moves, and I thought, well, that's good enough. I better bail out now. And, I offered her a draw. She agreed, and then she got me to sign it, and that was that. And then many years later, with my son, I had the same story again, except I actually had to resign a few. But anyway,
beautiful. So, what does chess teach you about life? I'm sure that you get learnings for life. There's some kind of working that you put your brain through over that entire career. So, what has it changed you inside you as a man?
I think no matter how much you study the game, and I feel that I know less about the game now than I felt when I was 6 years old, because then many things seemed obvious to me. But the more years you spend doing something, the more you realize that every day is something new you learn, and then you realize how far behind you are. The other thing is simply how unforgiving the board is. They say you never play your opponent. You never play the board. You actually play your opponent. But the board itself is very unforgiving. You don't keep your concentration, your attention, your discipline, everything till the very end. The point will slip away again and again and again. You'll be punished constantly till you correct yourself. And that is its own discipline. So just never to relax till the score sheet is signed, as we say. And attached to the first point I mentioned, that it constantly surprises you, the importance of learning new things all the time. Even when things are going well, you have to look at chess again with fresh eyes and say, well, I'm going to learn something new today. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. Learn this, learn that. And you'll always find some player who does something that you want to do. He'll do it much better, and he'll do it effortlessly. And it's so irritating. And then you sit there and you try very hard. I mean, it's quite funny that what's easy for you is difficult for him, and what's difficult for you is trivial for him. And being able to look at other people and observe that and try to make a learning out of it is very healthy as well.
Could you name 3 of your opponents who you respected a lot, and what were the exchanges in terms of learning of mindset? I'm not just talking about the chess skill set. I mean, you can cover that as well, sir. But what did you learn about mindsets? 3 of your top opponents and their mindsets.
Okay, well, generally my mindset is to, or for my mindset, I find it easier to admire slightly cold-blooded people who don't get affected. I always found Capo very impressive because he had this ability to keep a smile even when you knew he didn't like something. And this was even more impressive on the chessboard, where he somehow always managed to pretend that what happened to him was just fully deserved, and that kind of thing. But I felt it in a negative sense because quite often he would try to take advantage of things. But in a longer term, I realized it's his attitude to life. He just doesn't concede anything anywhere. And it allowed him to be at the top for very, very long. I like people who kick up a fuss and protest very quickly, because my natural tendency is to walk to protect, just say, well, if I avoid it, it'll go away, and I don't like to pick a fight, and if possible, I just avoid people I don't like. But there are chess players, like Fischer or Kasparov. They pick up a fight with someone and enjoy it, and and a couple of times I tried to do it, and I realized it doesn't work for me at all, because when I pick a fight with someone, I become uncomfortable and I don't enjoy it, and then it affects my play, and then I feel guilty and everything. So I realized in the end, you have to be yourself. But I like watching these slightly unpleasant people, but I wish I had a bit of that. But
so, sir, what's life like now? Like, what are you up to? Because I'm sure that you've gained like a massive skill set from your life in chess. And I would like to know who wishes to work with you at this stage, because I feel there's a lot you can add to different industries, different fields. So, what's life like now?
Nothing in my life, and well, I'm 51 years old, but nothing in my life has prepared me for what happened last year. There are many situations which you face, but then you think a little bit and I encountered something similar when I was young, and I learned then this, and I can apply it. This is crazy. I've never seen the world shut down like this. I've never just been locked up in a room for so long. And so this last year has been fun. It's not been fun, but I've had the time to pursue some hobbies, catch up with some friends, and so on. But it still feels artificial. I would still go back in a heartbeat to how it used to be. And well, it's gotten tragic as well. And I can't say that I try to cope, but it's still, the last month has been kind of overwhelming. I mean, it's easy to say, have another hobby, do this, do that, keep yourself. But I'm doing a lot of these suggestions, but still, it's very hard to be in a good mood for quite some time. But basically, that's what I do. I've been trying to learn some things, practice some things. I also started a chess academy with Westbridge, where I train some Indian young top juniors, and I work with them. Then I started teaching students on Graphy, and that's a very unusual experience, because I've not done something on that level, but we have a fairly close-knit group of students, and you talk to them and let them. So I'm playing around a bit. And besides, I talk about my career. I give talks for a lot of organizations. Amazing how much stuff you do on Zoom now, and what you used to do before face to face. But I think the way to see it is how much worse it would have been if I didn't have these things to do. So I think it's very healthy to, read up on your hobbies thing. And one nice thing is I've been able to spend a lot of time at home with my wife and son. I think neither of them have seen me so much for so long. So
yeah, I completely feel you, sir. Family is something I've rediscovered as well. The joys of family, joys of spending time with your mum and your dad, your sister. It's something else, man. And I feel like, when you're an athlete like you are, or when you're an entrepreneur, or when you're just really ambitious in general, you kind of get sucked into that vortex of ambition or vortex of leveling up. And somewhere you stop deriving the joys of family from your family. So that's the bright side that I'd probably like to highlight over the last 1.5 years. Though it's been dark, I feel families have been brought back together. So you mentioned Graphy, and just generally we're seeing this massive edtech boom in the country. Graphy is at the forefront. I also had a content creation course that I did as well on Graphy, and I love the experience of it, teaching probably younger versions of yourself the skills that you kind of struggle to learn. Like education, learning as a concept has become so kind of free flowing. Like imagine yourself growing up, in primary school, needing to learn about chess, but being trained by someone who's been a grandmaster. That's what kids of today have access to. So what difference do you see, things like Graphy making in the world today as compared to your time growing up?
Well, I think you hit the nail. It's on the head. It's basically first a very intimate setting. So it's not a very large classroom. I actually look at their games that they played and answer questions, and they can address me. And it feels like you're in a slightly large room or in a small auditorium rather than in a stadium, to give you And that's nice because then people feel comfortable and they open up with questions. And still, most learning in chess happens with practice, just like with most things. But you're able to, you cannot say these are the things you must do and these are the ways in which you must do them. But if you spend an hour talking and you share your experiences, they share, then often they'll take away much more. It's got that comfortable feel that everyone feels intimate. At the same time, we're doing hard work on several positions. So, I try to teach it by a topic. So I'll do something on the opening, then the middle game, then I'll take the concept of attack and highlight that, and the concept of defense, and then a little bit of end games, and like this, very structured, but back and forth. And what is nice is also the students can also talk amongst themselves, which is nice because many of them may have the same doubts. So I find it is a very enjoyable format, and I'll be definitely repeating it in June again.
Yeah, I think the future of all kinds of education is edtech. And generally, when we're speaking about the future, sir, especially when you're talking about chess as a context, I'd love to bring up artificial intelligence here. So I have a friend, Nikhil Kamath. He's the founder of Zerodha. He's also played a lot of chess. He's been a competitive chess player. And he had told me that chess, a lot of it boils down to good levels of pattern recognition. As strong as your pattern recognition is a skill you need to be better at chess. So artificial intelligence kind of works in that same way. And I know that early forms of artificial intelligence kind of use chess as their own litmus test. Can we develop a machine which is able to beat grandmasters? And I believe that Google, what was it called? Google Alpha? I can't remember the name of it.
AlphaZero, yeah.
AlphaZero. So I'd love for you actually to take the audience through what AlphaZero was. And also, do grandmasters and people from the world of chess work with people from the world of AI to develop systems?
Okay, that's you're right that first computers beat chess, but they did it in a different way. Nobody referred to computers 20 years ago as artificial intelligence. That was seen as something sci-fi and slightly futuristic. What they meant was that a computer can do something better than you can do. And it does that not by being intelligent in any way, but for the problem to be reduced into a small number of steps that it can do very efficiently. So this was generally the term we used was brute force computing. And computers were killing us. This is important to remember. Computers were killing us even 15 years back or 20 years back. But at the same time, about 5 years ago, we had the sense that computers have gotten as strong as they're going to get, and they have hit some limits. And from now on, they will not discover anything really new in chess. And they're already beating us. A bit like a car, you think, well, It can run faster than any athlete. And so what? We know that it's got wheels and it's got engine and it goes like this, and that's it. But then these neural networks started coming in. The concept is different. Here, you don't have a programmer sitting and programming the way it plays chess. They give it the rules of the game and they let it play against itself. They just leave it there playing against itself. Obviously, if you do this in your house, it'll take a million years, but they were able to do this, and it played, I think, 44 million games in 4 hours.
Wow.
And then it's literally like a child. It's born. Let's say a child can walk. It goes, it tries to open the door, hits that once. Okay, it thinks that was painful. I don't do that again. Then it hits the wall. It thinks, okay, that's also not a good idea. Then eventually, by trial and error, it'll find the doorknob. It'll pull that. Oh, that's how the door opens. Then it remembers that. Doorknob good, hitting head on wall bad. And then it marks those two and goes. Okay. So literally, that's how neural networks learned how to play chess. They just played chess over and over again. And the good ideas, there were more neural connections, and the other ones, the bad ones, dropped out. So, and the remarkable thing is, not only these neural networks were as strong as the previous generation, in fact, they were stronger. They were able to beat the previous generation. But they were showing us interesting new things. And the reason was that because we had not told them what we thought. We did not tell them, we think the queen is worth so much, the rook is worth so much, the knight is worth so much, and this square is important, that square. Because we don't know what we know. And how can you tell someone what you don't know? Literally, that's the problem for humans trying to explain chess or any subject. A lot of it is intuitive, and there is no way to capture that. So that's what's happening. For languages, same problem. When you try to program old-style computers and teach it language, and we took our grammar rules and we put it in code, then, well, you saw the result. It was ridiculous. Now, the thing just analyzes billions of lines of language, of text, and guesses that, oh, this connects with this word comes before this. If this word comes after this, it means this, that, that. It generates its own set of rules, and it speaks it better and better. And that's a little bit what happened. And it's fascinating, the new stuff that we are learning in chess, because we're learning new stuff all the time. And it's sped up with artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Artificial intelligence is something that just fascinates me to another degree. I went to engineering college, didn't enjoy much of the subjects, but in my last year, I had NNFL, which is neural networks, as a subject. And it just blew my mind away in terms of, okay, wow, technology has come this far. So for someone who doesn't understand how neural networks works, it's basically what Sir said, that you need some engineer, some programmer to put in a lot of data about a subject into the neural net. And then the neural net kind of looks at all of the data, scans it, and tries understanding patterns for it. For example, if you want to predict the weather in 2021 June, which hasn't happened yet at the time of this recording. So the way a computer will do it is it'll see all the weather reports from right up till like 1970 till now. And it will try spotting patterns. Okay, when the pressure was so much, when the temperature was so much, on this day, if Monday it was so much, Tuesday it was so much, Wednesday was so much, it's likely that Thursday it might be this much. Why do I believe that my results are the way they are on Thursday? Because I've seen the same pattern happen in 1974. So that's how neural networks work. Then after a point, because of feedback loops, they combine possible patterns and come up with even more accurate patterns. But the core idea here is, as we are going forward in the human story, as we are going forward in terms of time, artificial intelligence is becoming stronger and stronger in the world, and it's going to take away jobs. It's going to do a lot of lafdas. It's going to do a lot of it's going to create a lot of intense situations for mankind, which people don't understand yet. Are you fascinated by AI, sir?
It is very interesting, and I look forward to seeing the problems it solves. I mean, every once in a while they'll say they cracked a maths problem, they cracked a physics problem, and simply by looking at a new.
Yeah. I once read this thing about intuition. I read that what is intuition? Okay, so there's two ways of looking at it. Once the spiritual aspect that we hear of, that you have a sixth sense, you have a gut feeling, you have a voice from the universe or a voice from God telling you what to do. But the actual biological form of intuition is that it's basically your brain's circuits doing pattern recognition again. You've probably, your brain has the capability of remembering everything it's ever seen in its life. And if you're put in a situation where you're going to be accessible to some form of danger, or you're going to be accessible to some form of joy, your brain's able to like recognize that from a past pattern. Now, depending on how much your brain's processing power is, how much rest you've given your brain, how much you've worked your brain, how much you've meditated, that's how fast you'll be able to calculate these patterns. So intuition also has a kind of mathematical format to it, which I believe comes alive because of AI, which is what you said. The beautiful aspect of AI is that it'll see stuff as it is, and it might correlate things that you never thought were correlated.
Exactly. And I always like to say in chess that it's probably true for other subjects, that intuition is just work that you forgot you did.
Yeah, so I read on your Wikipedia page actually that you really enjoy spending time in places of worship, temples, quiet places. Is that true? And did it like recharge your head a lot?
It's partially true, but of course, when I'm traveling, then it depends whether there's something nearby. I wouldn't say that I make a big effort to go to a quiet place to meditate or something like that. But I like to go for nice long walks in any town. If they have a nice park, just to go around and around, because I find that very peaceful. And it's important because there are a lot of thoughts in your game. I should have done this, and I wish I'd done that, and all this stuff is sitting inside your head. You walk for an hour, it slowly goes away, and then you come to terms with it and you come on. So I do a lot of that. I used to go to temples quite often when I was young, but obviously I'll go to if it's there, but otherwise you have to manage.
Got it. So and before we head into our final round of this podcast, which is the round of the Q&A from the Twitterverse, it's the fan questions. I'd probably love for you to highlight, some key aspects of your lifestyle when you believe you are at your chess peak, like when you believe that, okay, those were my years where I was like the murderous chess player. So what were aspects of your lifestyle from then? Was there anything you did to take care of your brain power, your brain speed, or just, how you highlighted your mental state of being as a big weapon for you? So what were some things you did to kind of massage that?
I think the most important thing by far is good sleep. Sleep is our way of coming to terms with the previous day, saying, yes, I can learn something from it, but now's not the time. The time we'll put it aside, we'll focus on the work tomorrow. And then at the end of the tournament, I'll see what I can learn. So you're not saying, nothing more here, but I will return to it later. But if on Monday, I keep cursing myself for what I should have done on Sunday, then I'll lose Monday as well. So yeah, that's that. And sleep is very important. But then good sleep is even more important. It's one thing to sit and roll in bed and toss and turn and feel and not able to detach yourself from that game and actually have a full good night's sleep. So the important things then became being tired enough to fall asleep and really get a good night's rest, and also to distract yourself. So during evenings, I don't get a lot of work done. Mainly I'll go to the gym, then come back, shower, and hopefully I'm tired enough after dinner that I'll just collapse and fall asleep. And so that's the idea, is just to sleep better. Or another way of relaxing is, I mentioned, going out for a walk or watching something totally different. In longer perspectives, even if I have a month or two without tournaments, the first 4 weeks I won't even look at chess. Because it's important to it's more important to want to work on chess than to actually work on chess. After 1 month, I'm actually hungry for chess again, and that helps a lot. Whereas if right after a tournament you start working, it doesn't. So this process of managing your passion for the game, I mean, it flows. It goes, it ebbs and flows. And when it's going down, it's better to not fight it and let it go to its thing, and then you come back. So rest and detachment from the game is very important. And then it's even better if you have other hobbies, other things that you look forward to, because then you can actually do something when you're not looking at chess as opposed to staring at the wall. So that sort of thing was the kind of, and it was also important for me not to have a peaceful tournament situation atmosphere. I mentioned earlier, I don't like situations where I'm arguing with half the participants and things like that. So if I have a good friend, I'll talk to him. If I don't, I'll just avoid them. And that way, it's not bad. It's just non-existent. So we live with that. And this attitude, my best tournaments, almost all of them, was when I was sitting there and I was only focused on what I wanted to do on the chessboard, and I was not worried about this or that. I was not fighting with anyone. I was calm. I would enjoy my game. Then I would come back home. Then I'd enjoy dinner, and then we'd watch a movie and then go to sleep. And you have this pleasant feeling of going through life without conflict. And if you don't lose a game, then you feel that even more. So those are the keys to my best years for sure.
Okay, Viswanathan Anand sir, I have to take you to the round of our Twitterverse. These are all the fan questions sent in. Okay, Manish Pandey, he's from our team. He asks, what inspired you to get to the top? That's something even I would like to know. Like, I'm sure that you had moments where you kind of felt like giving up. I'm talking about the time you were a teenager, sir. You know, you knew, okay, this is my likely journey, but you must have been demotivated at some point. So was there anything that kept you inspired?
Not particularly. There was always something left to achieve, so I would try to achieve that. And if there was a setback, I would just try again. And it all felt very natural. Because maybe that's something that comes naturally in chess, because you'll almost never have a long streak. You'll have wins and losses, then wins and losses. So you get used to that. And at every stage, it was always one step at a time. Every stage, I would think, what's the next thing I need to do? I mean, my childhood dream, of course, was become world champion, but that was something far away. So it was only when I got really close to becoming world champion that I spent energy trying to think of how to do it. And in those days, I didn't have to find a lot of tricks to motivate myself. I think when you're doing something for the first time, you don't need to put in any effort to motivate yourself. Second time is harder because you've already done it and you know you've done it, and so you're not that excited. But for the first time, it was not a big problem.
Yeah. As Steve Jobs said, when you have a vision that's crystal clear, you don't need motivation. The vision just pulls you. Exactly. So I'd probably echo that. Okay, so next question is from Chandra Kiran. The basic question is, what do we do as a country at a grassroots level to ensure that more people in India embrace chess as a serious career? And the second part of this question is, what kind of branding or marketing do you wish that chess should have in order to increase popularity and exposure?
Okay. One of the things we already do is to have chess in lots of schools. I ran a program with NIIT many years back. We put chess in a lot of schools. And the logic was very simple, that children who play chess a couple of hours a week often find it easier to tackle other challenging subjects, because chess is a little bit difficult. You're motivated by the reward of winning the game, and you learn some skills, and then you find it's easy to transfer to, I don't know, maths or physics or whatever. And on top of that, the more important thing is it taught you that decisions have consequences. You make a move, you can't take it back, and if the move loses, then you've lost. And doing that a few times. So some very healthy things like that you learn with chess. And probably that's the most natural way. Connect with people with students in schools and colleges, and try to get them to play the game more. But what we found out last year, and by the way, is the one good thing for chess from the pandemic, was that a lot of people have been wanting to learn chess. So what happened was that for many years, we were struggling to reconnect with people. And then last year, they just came in droves. online chess boomed by 5x, 6x. I mean, the numbers just went up, skyrocketed up. And after that, there was this Netflix series on chess, which also had unbelievable, like 70 million people watched that show and so on. And it turns out there were a lot of people who needed some way to connect with chess and an excuse to connect with chess and some free time. And last year they had all of it, and so it was very good. But yes, if to the extent we keep growing the sport, then hopefully we'll have more sponsors, more branding, as he mentioned. And, but I think we're already on that cycle, and the question is just how to grow it.
Have you heard of my friend Samay Raina? He's he's a YouTuber.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard of him. So
sure.
he's doing a lot to bring back chess to the mainstream. Love how he's just taken his passion and made it a part of his online brand. So I think the world needs more Samay Rainas on this planet.
Yes, well, what he's done is maybe taken away some of the intimidation in chess. A lot of people used to feel intimidated by chess. And okay, he's sitting there, he's bantering around, and in the meantime, maybe there's a little bit of chess happening. And so, well, it's a formula that has worked very well. So good for him.
What's your advice to Samay Raina?
I don't have much comedy advice for him, but but his chess, I don't know where to begin.
Had
to get that in. So.
Sorry, bro. So anyway, but okay, in terms of, do you have any message for Samay Raina's audience who is fascinated by chess? What's your take on that? Like, will we see more grandmasters come out of that audience?
Yes, eventually. I mean, everyone starts with baby steps, and I'm happy that they're engaging with chess in a format that's comfortable for them, and I hope that they will, some of them at least, will get the bug and play even more.
Beautiful, sir. Okay. Shivam Anand asks, there were many chess players who could not sustain ability as they aged. So what's the secret behind Viswanathan Anand, sir, adapting to changing times and being relevant to the game as modern masters emerged? So I think the question is probably about your reinvention through the years and your own kind of hard work behind the scenes, maybe. Or if you'd like to add any other aspect to that, sir.
I think mainly it's because I'm not very dogmatic. I'm fairly flexible. So if something works, I'll do it. And but one day if it doesn't work, I don't have too many hang-ups in dropping it and trying something else. So this is very helpful in chess. So especially when computers and then AI were rewriting all the concepts, we had to learn a lot of stuff. But the first step for us is always first an acceptance that we want to change. And the second thing is to shut that voice inside and say, let's be quiet and see what we can learn, rather than try to give our old views. So willingness to learn new things. And in order to learn something new, you must be willing to accept that you don't know it very well. So I'm generally quite good at this. I don't have too many stands of principle on how I play chess and things like that. I'm fairly flexible. I was willing to learn, and I was willing to take risks again. And the most important thing probably is that I just I enjoy playing, and that's the biggest motivator to get me going.
God. Okay, so Nikhil has asked a very elaborate question. Nikhil Gaud 4444. It's an elaborate question about you analyzing your opponents and their capability while playing. Like, how do you know when to attack, defend, or just play strategy-oriented games? But I would actually like to rephrase his question as what you understood about psychology of human beings or of your opponents, sir. What did you understand about the way human minds work? And were there any kind of intimidation games that even you played?
Of course. Well, we're always trying to play intimidation games. Most of the time, you intimidate someone with your good moves. And so most of it is quite legitimate and normal. If you're a strong player and you can sense your opponent is not as strong, and you make your moves more and more confidently, it has an effect on them because you know that when you're felt it from the other side. So that's a natural thing. Another thing is to find that everyone has some kind of weakness, some anxiety, some quality that when it erupts, then after that their game becomes very unsteady and they can lose very fast. You try to provoke that. Again, you try to provoke it through moves. So coming up with unexpected moves or focusing on their weak areas or something like that. Generally, what people do well, they're confident they can do well because they've had positive reinforcement. So they will continue to do it well. And of course, if you're sensitive or very touchy, then people will keep on insulting you and nagging you because they know it works. And in a way, it's a bit like school. What did they teach you in school? They said when the others when the other kids tease you, just ignore them because after 3 minutes they get bored. In school, it works very well. Of course, I succeeded with this as well. Somebody would tease me. After 2 minutes, I realized they got bored and they moved to the next kid who was responding. It's a bit like that in chess also. When somebody tries to trash talk you or whatever, it doesn't happen during the game, but it happens before. Then you just you ignore it and you try to come up with good moves the next day and you're fine. And that's it. I found that it was not good for me to try to win psychological battles with my opponent because, non-chess ones, because it made me more uncomfortable than it made him. So I stopped it also.
Can you give us some masaledar trash talk stories, sir?
There was an opponent called Kamsky who was quite a bugbear for many years. He was his father was quite paranoid, and his father was constantly afraid that everyone else was ganging up on him. So we knew it would annoy him so much. And his father would be sitting in the audience trying to guess so if I walked on the left of Kamsky, he would think, what is he trying to signal to his opponent? And if I came in from the right, what is he thinking? So after a while, we realized we could just stand there, keep our eyes looking mischievously around, walk a little bit unsteadily, do something, then do something unexpected. We knew it would drive him nuts. And of course, we were not signaling anything, but we knew it drove him nuts, and we did it all the time. I don't think I've done anything that I would be ashamed of. Not anything that actually disturbed my opponent. But sometimes when you play fast, when you blitz, your opponent spends 20 minutes on a move and you just reply instantly. These things have an effect. They find it irritating. So all these things you can do, but like I said, I was a very well-behaved guy, and I tried to avoid fighting with other people.
But did other people try trash talking you?
Yes, they did. And then I found a good method, which is basically my school lesson, which is that I 2 months before a big match, I would just not read any chess magazine. So they're just insulting me in these chess magazines. I'm not reading them. Then 2 months later, I'll open them and see, oh, they said this stupid thing about me. But then in the meantime, I already beat them in that tournament before which they were trying to upset me. So it didn't matter. Essentially, I understood that there were a couple of players. There was one Dutch player who likes to keep on needling people. But I realized his needling doesn't affect anyone because he doesn't back it up with good moves. Even in chessboard, if you don't back up your trash talking with good moves, it rebounds on you. People just laugh at you even more. So if you're going to trash talk someone, you should be very good. When Kasparov trash talked people, that was different because people were actually afraid of his moves as well. But most people, when they do it, it backfires badly.
Do you follow any other sports, sir? Like, do you watch any other sports?
Yeah, I watch football. I watch tennis. And I'll follow dozens of sports. I'll watch a bit of cricket. I'll watch badminton. Follow the results, follow people, that kind of thing.
Got it. Do you see parallels? I'm sure you do, but could you highlight some cool parallels that you see between, say, cricket and football with chess? Like, what kind of mentalities are the same?
you can see that in cricket, the clearest thing is just the sudden drop in performance when someone has been, their equilibrium has been disturbed. Um, when they sledge each other or they pick up a fight on the field or whatever. And then if you don't have the discipline to just pull back, very often your level can drop right away. Equally, it can backfire for the other team. The guy gets so motivated he hits sixes. But it's not a surefire thing, but it can happen. Or in many sports, there are rivalries. And the rivalries exist not because there's something wrong with the sport, but because they have a prior relationship and this old history is playing in their heads. And that is why the same problems happen again and again. The same mistakes happen again and again. And you can see that pattern consistently. Even I would always assume that in team sports, it shouldn't happen because the blame is distributed. But even teams have their traumas. Like I'm sure some football teams carry the trauma of some Champions League match or something for decades afterwards. Even though half the team was not there then, but it gets passed on like the history of a country, it gets passed on for them and so on. So yes, the parallels are there all the time.
Do you support any football club? Like, is there a football club of your choice?
Real Madrid. I was living in Madrid for 16 years, so had to pick up.
You can speak Spanish?
Yes, I can. We can both speak Spanish. I mean, we live there and we're quite fluent at it.
What's your take on Virat Kohli? What do you think of him as an athlete?
Well, it's. I think at some point, as you said, he made the jump from a very good cricketer to an exceptional one. And it's always nice when somebody, first of all, makes this jump. When somebody feels the need to make this jump, because life is already seems fairly good for them, and they start giving the impression they don't care, but then they pull themselves together and really work on every aspect of the game. And look, it paid off a lot for them. I mean, I remember especially the attention he used to give to fitness and how that he benefited from that and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think every sport has those kind of athletes, who aren't born with everything, but who kind of build it up over time, like through a work ethic, through discipline. And that's probably the big gift of sport, according to me, to the world, that it creates inspiration for young kids who are probably not going to become athletes, but they will carry that inspiration into other domains of life.
Yeah. That what's worth having is never going to be easy.
Yeah, 100%. If I had to ask you, like, out of all the cricketers that we've had in India, whose personality is the most similar to how yours was when you were competing? Like, could you pick any one athlete and you're like, okay, this guy's brain was like similar to my brain?
I don't know. I mean, when I was young, I grew up with people like Sunil Gavaskar and Kapil Dev, and it was that era. And later on, of course, Sachin. And at least there's one aspect that I recognize, that Sachin also likes, he steers away from some things and he goes for others. And generally he seems like me, quiet in, he's not plunging into every area of discussion or every topic. He stays away. And I also have this habit. So maybe it's something that I recognize.
Lippy Sharma asks about your secret to your concentration, focus. Do you have anything you'd like to highlight that you haven't already, sir?
So I'll tell you, concentration, you concentrate better on things you like, that you find interesting, versus things you don't. No great secret. It's much easier to concentrate on a movie than school homework, and so we all know this. But in chess, what I found that if I'm having problems in some areas, then I need to make it interesting for me so that I will concentrate better. But how do you make something that you don't like interesting for you? Well, you find something within it that can be interesting. So even if I'm doing this badly, but I'm going to try to do this one thing better tomorrow. Let me try it. And then I work on that area. And I have a thing, okay, this I must remember, this I must remember, this I must remember. So the next day when I get to that position, I think, what are the three things I wanted to remember? Okay. And briefly, my concentration has gone up.
Got it.
That's basically it. I think even chess players cannot focus on what they're not interested in. So there is no way to force your brain.
Are all of them slightly eccentric? Like I know you said that they can be eccentric behind the scenes, but do you think there are eccentricities to being a chess player?
I think chess players seem eccentric because they're misunderstood. But because I'm a chess player myself, I cannot see it. I mean, I know people who chess players who think a lot about the game, but because I also think a lot about the game, that doesn't come across as strange to me. But most chess players are very normal. I don't think you would meet a lot of chess players, and if you don't know to advance they play chess, you would not realize. But the eccentric ones really make the news, and then people think everyone is like that. So that's the key.
Got it.
It's not like all chess players are like that, but the ones who are like that get noticed a lot. So Fischer, Morphy, these people, these stories about them get written for years afterwards.
Umang Kelani asks, some childhood habits that have helped you in your career. Anything that you've retained from your teenage or childhood that helped you carry you through?
Well, even when I was very young, I used to bite my nails. So that's not, but I don't think I should give that too much credit. Generally, I'm a nervous person. I like to fidget and move my finger here and scratch my nose and this and that. But I think he's actually asking for some secret tips. Let me think of something important. I generally trust my intuition. There is a reason it's your intuition, and you should at least give it a fair hearing. Maybe that's... and from the time when I was young, when I trusted my intuition much more than I do today, but I still... sometimes you have a gut feeling, you should go with it. Let's put it that way.
Can you elaborate on what your thought is about intuition in general? Like, how do you look at it? Do you look at it as some external voice? Do you look at it as pattern recognition again? What do you think it is?
Well, it's pattern recognition. Even an external voice, it's a kind of pattern recognition. But what I said about it being work that you forgot that you did is that if you put... For instance, if you gave me a book in the Chinese language, I don't have any intuition. I can look at it 100 different ways, but I don't have any intuition. If you give me a book in a language with a script similar to a language I know, then I'll have some intuition. And so I think it's the same with chess, that when you... if you've seen a similar position before, you'll have some intuition for it. If you've never seen anything like it, you probably have very little. And whatever little you have is from the general board itself. So, I mean, the way the pieces move, even if not in the specific area. And so I don't think intuition is something that pops up. I think intuition is entirely developed. If you walk to your office every day, you'll have a very good intuition of how to get there. So if the main road is blocked, you'll have a good sense of, I think this should work or that should work. It's like that. You get better at intuition. Probably people confuse talent and intuition. Some people genuinely have some things come easily to them and they're hopeless in other things. So finding out what you have a talent for is very good as a career choice. But I don't think intuition is an inner force at all. It's developed.
Got it. Viswanathan Anand, sir, thank you for being on the Ranveer show. Before you leave, I would just request you to leave the youth with one piece of advice. Whatever you've learned from your own life, if you just had to give one very general statement to a young, ambitious kid, what would you say?
I would say find something that you enjoy doing and do it. Life is quite hard to do something you don't really enjoy doing. And a lot of the hard stuff doesn't feel so hard if you enjoy it. So my best advice is just to find something you really like doing.
Vishwanathan Anand, sir, thank you for being on the Ranveer show. Honestly, I was a little intimidated by this particular episode, but the moment I saw your smiling face, that intimidation died out. Really appreciate you being on the show, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ranveer. It's a pleasure being here. Thanks to the audience as well.
I'm
for the
glad.
Questions. Thanks.
Glad you enjoyed it, sir. Thank you so much. That was our episode with Vishy Anand, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed speaking with him. Often, maybe every 5 to 10 episodes, I end up talking to a legend from a particular industry on TRS. And the common trait I see is humility. If you had to learn one thing from this man, other than how to constantly work your brain, how to constantly be a learner, learn humility from Viswanathan Anand. That was the episode of The Ranveer Show for today. Just make sure to follow us on Spotify because we're now a Spotify exclusive podcast. Every episode available 48 hours before the rest of the world gets to view it. Where's it available? On Spotify. More stellar episodes like this coming up for you. We've got a crazy lineup for TRS.